there are two giant problems you face when attempting to adapt the Helldivers universe into a movie. Number one, we kind of let Helldivers get away with a lot, don't we? We kind of let Helldivers get away with murder, right? And don't get me wrong, to clarify at the top of this video, here's who I am, here's what I represent in this video. But when you talk about Helldivers as a story, as a movie, let's just even say as an intellectual property, the most generous way to describe it would be postmodern. Maybe a cruder way to describe it would be a giant ripoff of a million things. The term ripoff rather than tribute here, I'm using very deliberately. And again, I like Helldivers. When it comes to satire in storytelling, there is always going to be a mostly invisible, difficult to find, but undeniably real line which properties cannot cross before they become a ripoff or a parody. A satire generally functions as the thing it's imitating while also adding another level of commentary. This is not true for Helldivers, because most of the things it is satirizing are either satires themselves or hugely derivative of other things. And it does this while adding almost nothing to the table other than an incredible gameplay loop. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Helldivers isn't funny. It is funny. But it's a parody more than a satire. I mean, it makes RoboCop look like fucking Death of Stalin. Now, we live in a world filled with postmodern properties. Properties that wear their influences and inspirations directly on their sleeves. The sort of far push edge of this are things like, Invincible, The Boys. One of them's mostly a satire. One of them uses pre-established tropes and ideas of a specific company in order to deepen its own lore. It's interesting ways to use these things, but at the end of the day, this is mostly a serious science fiction superhero story that knows you read comics, and this is a silly satire for people who don't read comics. Maybe you resent that classification of those two properties. Maybe you have a different take on all this and you think I'm totally wrong. Well, to that I say I'm Max Landis. I was right about Man of Steel. I was right about Disney, Star Wars. I'm right about Carly Rae Jepsen. Whatever else you think I'm wrong about, I'm also right about Helldivers. The 1984 doublespeak, the super powerful Earth Empire, whose evil intentions are enforced by a legion of brainwashed soldiers to fight false flag military operations in other universes. We've seen this. We've seen this. But not only that, we've seen this. And we've seen this. And we know that that looks like that. And we know that this looks like this. And the thing is, Helldivers knows. The sense of irony and also nudging buddy-buddiness of the game itself lets you know that it's not meant to be taken entirely seriously as a story. It is a framework for the gameplay loop. I think Helldivers kind of assumes that you will have encountered Starship Troopers, and it wears that right out front. Like, sure, you love Starship Troopers, you love Paul Verhoeven, but how much are you gonna love it when Machine Gun go and Bug go and the answer is a lot. We love it a lot because it's extremely good. So much of what's fun about Helldivers is the wink wink nudge nudge from the people making the game, Arrowhead Studios, that you, the player, are in on the joke. We give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, it looks just like fucking Terminator, but it's from Helldivers. That's the joke. And they make it easy for us to engage with the game this way through the second massive problem of adapting Helldivers, or should I say challenge, of adapting Helldivers into a movie. And that is the deliberately opaque and obfuscated lore. You as a player of Helldivers don't actually know what the fuck is going on in Helldivers because you're a Helldiver. And you're down to engage with it that way because your mechanism of engagement with the game is helldiving. There's no wandering around in the hallways of the government of Super Earth, or even going to populated planets, or even communicating with anyone back home, beyond propaganda messages that ape the propaganda messages from Starship Troopers. Is there nothing in this game that's not from something else? Get me wrong, I love you Helldivers. The fictional entity, Super Earth, by and large, controls all of the public-facing windows to the Helldivers lore and IP. So you're never actually getting in-universe stories about the Helldivers. And in fact, a lot of the 1984 style doublespeak that's being used by Super Earth implies that there are definitely things you don't know, and anyone with a small degree of media literacy can see through it to the idea that things are being hidden from us. In fact, almost everything is being hidden from us. What really happened with the bugs? So we made them pretty much, but what were they before? What really happened with the Illuminate? How'd that all go down? What do they really want? The cyborgs and the bots, what's actually going on there? Clearly something, but we're not allowed to know. And it's part of the joke of playing Helldivers, part of the necessary suspension of disbelief for this not to feel like a rip-off of everything. You see what I'm saying? So by separating us and walling us off from all of the necessary information you would need to actually build this out into a deep, rich property of its own, Helldivers has, for a decade as a property, protected itself from the sort of scrutiny, criticism, and dissection that a more plot-heavy game, a less directly postmodern and satirical game, might encounter for using the tropes, themes, ideas, and visuals it does. I mean, this looks like that. It looks like that. They know I've seen this. They know I saw this. And what's so fucked up is that these are all derivative of each other, man. I mean, look at this.
Come on, you bastard! Come on, you too! Oh, you want some of this?
Okay, now look at this. So then you zoom out, right? You go, what is the actual intellectual value of the Helldivers property? Is it a commentary on fascism? Not really a sincere one. Is it a space adventure story? No, it has a deliberately cynical and nihilistic outlook that positions the player as a disposable army of goons. Okay, well then what is it? Is it a philosophical? Is it a thinky movie? When you look at the proposition of the property, even making an individual Helldiver the main character kind of misses the point. I mean, we see what an individual Helldiver is. They're nothing. So when I think about it and I put my noodle to Helldivers, I'm pitching from a bad stance, right? Because I don't actually know what's going on in the universe of Super Earth. They haven't fucking told me. My insights about the day-to-day life of Super Earth citizens, the evil goals of the Illuminate, the inner corrupt functionings of Super Earth are meaningless. Because people at Arrowhead actually do know this, and hopefully they will be telling the Sony writers, or hopefully they will be producing and hiring their own writers instead of putting a movie through development at Sony. The first way that's obvious is a way they wouldn't do because it's clever, even though it's obvious. You'll hear it and then you'll think, that is clever, but it's also obvious. I could have thought of that, except for they won't do it because it's too clever. So let me just spill the beans here. The way to do Helldivers, way one, is to do it as an experience movie. Do it in IMAX. Giant budget battle movie, choose one or two types of aliens and go on a mission with the Helldivers. To do that, you would be doing a movie with totally unique structure, functioning like something like 1917 or Hardcore Henry. Even The Raid would be the ultimate comparison. The Raid, but at the scale of the Normandy invasion in fucking Saving Private Ryan. You know, Battle Los Angeles was like the worst possible version of this, but the gimmick of the movie is that there's a new cast every 4 minutes. Everyone keeps dying. Actors you didn't know were going to be in the movie keep showing up again and again and again. And it's this fun, funny, explosive, bloody, violent ride. Go do it. Go do it. Go make a Helldivers movie that's a mission. Except for all you're doing is aping the experience of playing Helldivers, which was probably could be funnier and more exciting and more involving than a movie of watching, Chris Pratt, God forbid, play Helldivers. I don't think anyone wants that. Would I watch it? Would I go to theaters to see a Helldivers battle movie? Sure. Could it be really funny? Could it be really subversive? Could it turn these violent set pieces into slapstick at an orchestral, operatic scale? Giant explosions and spaceships plummeting out of the sky and limbs being ripped off in order to get a cheap laugh or a fart joke in. Yeah, I believe there's many writers who could do an incredible Helldivers action comedy summer blockbuster movie. I think, for instance, someone like The Lonely Island could probably murder that. Pop star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, underrated. Chippendales back in action, hugely underrated. The sequel to Roger Rabbit. So then you go into the second way of making a Helldivers movie, which is make a Helldivers movie. I don't think Sony would necessarily go for an idea like that because I don't know if you've ever heard the term four quadrant. Four quadrant means it's for everybody. They're trying to get as many people in the audience as possible. The problem with Helldivers is it's stationed as an R-rated, violent, hyper-cynical postmodern property puts it in a dangerous space for four quadrant filmmaking, especially for studios that are afraid to take any risk. Way two would be a huge budget, stylistically beautiful, thunderously emotional, unbelievably clever, philosophically inventive movie about living in the Helldivers universe that gets us out of the thumb of Super Earth. Are we with Helldivers for some of the movie? I think definitely yes. I think the idea of a more regular person, for instance, a person living under a veil of installed ignorance, I think a person like that ending up alongside the Helldivers as they're fired into the mission is really fucking exciting. Visually beautiful, practical sets, Terry Gilliam's Brazil, 1984, mix them all together, see what you get, create something incredibly exciting, character-based, focus it in on, let's say, 3 levels of people. A politician of Super Earth, a xenobiologist whose job is to study the aliens and uncovers a conspiracy, and a Helldiver. One Helldiver. I think maybe in the first act of the movie, you get all the big battle shit out of the way and then save it to the third act, and you go on an adventure where, you know what, Arrowhead? What's the lore? You've been playing coy with the lore forever. Well, now you've got a movie. Fallout met the challenge of a TV show in a way video game adaptations almost never do. It used the TV show as an extension of the property instead of an adaptation. Helldivers should do exactly the same thing. I believe the second and most interesting way into Helldivers is to broaden out the focus of the world and start showing us new shit. Use the Terminators, the War of the Worlds alien Protoss guys, and the literal bugs from Starship Troopers to can open a world of characters and ideas. Tell a big, heartfelt story about the little guy fighting fascism. But to do it, it needs to stop being so deliberately fucking coy about what Helldivers is about. Oh, we know what it's about. It's about a fascist autocratic Earth government fighting alien, but they started... How many times have you seen this, guys? Unique way in, director-driven, big, smart Helldivers. That's the dream. Terry Gilliam's Starship Troopers. I think there's something there. I think that's the one. Failing that, we don't want to make a big summer blockbuster that just mimics the gameplay, but in a unique way. We don't want to do a character-based story filled with heart that explores the deliberately hidden universe in an exciting way for both players and new fans. No, we're clever. Then you get the third way. And you know what? Some of you won't hate this, and it's an interesting opportunity, but I don't think Sony will do it, and I also think it's kind of a bad idea, which is in-universe propaganda movie. Full-on, Naked Gun style, this doesn't matter, scary movie, it doesn't matter. This is a goofy comedy that is commenting on itself via the mechanism of it being a propaganda movie about the Helldivers. Constantly glorifying violence, death, sacrifice, and fascism openly, intensely, to the degree that it's like a fucking Bugs Bunny cartoon. And don't tell me that Helldivers isn't like a Looney Tune. How many times have you thrown a bomb only for it to bounce back and land in your lap and blow up your whole team? You're fucking Wile E. Coyote in this game. And why not do a movie of that? Why not do a movie of that? Sure. In-universe propaganda movie. I mean, that's how Starship Troopers starts, right? And we're just going to keep coming back to Starship Troopers. Because at the end of the day, Verhoeven's output as a filmmaker. What he brought to the Heinlein Starship Troopers property is tone, is irreverence, is intelligence. Verhoeven's movies are clever. They're not dumb. Even fucking Showgirls is really well made. So you come to this weird juncture where the challenge is adapting something that it itself is the ripoff of 100 other things that themselves were standout things for how different and interesting they were. I don't know. I know that I'm probably going to still be playing Helldivers this time next year, but I don't know what the movie is. I just wanted to hop on here and talk about it because I got a new camera. I think I have some points here. What do you think? What's the Helldivers movie? Hit me. I love you guys. If you're in LA, please be careful. I hope you're all safe. And if you're anywhere else in the world, please be careful. I hope you're all safe. And if you're playing Helldivers, watch out. I just threw a 120. Watching this back, I realized I kind of dodged the question of if I could write a Helldivers movie, what would it be? How would I, me with my style, come into Helldivers? What kind of movie do I think I could write in the Helldivers universe? I kind of dodged that since that's not really the conversation I want to have. I more wanted to be like, whoa, what could it be? But then I realized I know what I would do personally, now that I've had time to look at this back. With the information I have, with the limited knowledge of Helldivers lore, my Helldivers movie would be about a young guy who's in Super Earth High Command, and he's doing really well, and he's known for being super, super strategic and ruthless. And his job is to command Helldiver teams. So he's the guy in the headset who sort of is the player surrogate in the movie, even though in the game you play as the Helldivers. It sort of reveals a dual protagonist idea, a dual level of engagement, that there's this guy, let's call him Sydney. He's like a young, buzzcut, piece of shit military guy who just wants to get ahead and become an important person in Super Earth, and he's a true believer, and he has a nice family and a nice life. And then one day, one of his Helldivers, who, die constantly, we witness him being extremely ruthless and totally efficient with how he orders the Helldivers around. But it kind of doesn't matter, and we play with your sympathies because the Helldivers are happy to die. They want to be fucking kamikaze. That's what they like. They like to fucking get exploded in the name of Super Earth. They're a brainwashed army of human bullets. So their relationship to this guy is actually not as sinister as it upfront seems. That way you use the cynicism of the game without betraying the tone. Except then you fuck with the tone. How would I do Helldivers as a character-based thriller? The same way I do everything. I can't not write character-based thrillers. I'm sorry, it's what I do. It's just where my hand naturally goes, because oh no, one of his Helldivers has a very weird encounter with a fucking automaton in which he communicates all this stuff to the Helldiver that the Helldiver is like, wait a minute, it's all a lie, everything's a lie. And this Helldiver questions Sydney, and even though Sydney does the right thing and kills that Helldiver, it haunts him. And even worse than it haunting him, having to trigger the traitor detector because his Helldiver talked to someone, even worse than it haunts him, weirdly, it pisses off one of his co-workers, let's call him Fred, and Fred reports Sydney to the fucking truth department. So suddenly the fucking Fahrenheit 451 Equilibrium Gestapo are after our boy Sydney. They come and visit him. They interrogate him for hours. They use all these cool, like, Helldiver style, kind of ratchety, greebly, weird polygraph style machines. You do 1984. You have fun. You do fucking Clockwork Orange with this basically Fallout buzzcut guy. Except then they put him back in because he passes everything. Little does he know, Fred has had the truth department come and basically fucking farm off to internment camps everyone close to him. All of the sweet character relationships we built in the first 23 minutes of this movie, let's say 28 minutes of the movie, those people are now a team of Helldivers headed into the most dangerous environment possible. So you kill off everyone in Sydney's life one at a time, as he is forced for the first time ever to invest fully emotionally in each and every Helldiver fired down to the planet. And I'm talking about a fucking thriller, basically a Saw movie, where a character is stuck on a headset back at Super Earth trying to get to the battlefield and also avoid assassination attempts. We crack open Pandora's box. We get into what the Helldivers lore is. Please. But it doesn't really matter, because it's what's really about, what the character story is really about, is Sydney learning the value of human life and learning, how, his trying to save his own connections. Because if your people, imagine if your girlfriend, or failing that, mom or dad or brother or best friend, or how about all of them, were your Helldivers team. Think about every time one of your Helldivers died in Helldivers, that was a person in your life. Now imagine you didn't have a choice but to just keep playing Helldivers. Third act, he gets away. Come on, he wins. He goes and joins the cyborgs, or, he Chris Pratt's out of there. But in some very, very satisfying, cool, subversive way. A little less J.J. Abrams, a little bit more Douglas Adams is, I think, the right way to lean with a Helldivers third act. That's my Helldivers movie. It's a thriller that takes place split between the guy who's talking to the Helldivers, who's being in a government paranoia thriller, and then you go back and forth to Starship Troopers, Edge of Tomorrow, Aliens Land, but it's even more stylized, and it's got the violence from Evil Dead 2. Okay, that's the movie, and now I'm done with this.